Right, so welcome everybody, and we will dedicate this presentation to His Divine Grace, Abhaycharanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Can recite the Mangalacharan together. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Utah Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Sharato Pangur Mama Mandamatirgati Mat Sarvasva Padam Dojo Radha Madanamo Hano Divya Drindarunyo Kalpa Drumadaha Srimat Ratnagado Simhasanosto Sriman Radha Shri Govinda Devo Prashtalibihi Sevyamano Smarami Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivatastatastitaha Karshan Venur Saner Gopir Gopinata Shri Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripe Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diraye Nas Dharma Projito Kaitavo Atra Paramo Nirmat Saranam Satam Vedam Vashtamatramashta Shivadam Tapatrayon Moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Paraya Ishvaraha Sadhyo Hridi Avarudyate Atra Kritibihi Sushrusubhi Stakshanat. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror kalitam palam sutamukaram ritadravya samyitam Vivata Bhagavatam rasamalayam mukuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavata uttamasloke bhaktir bhavatir nashtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasayasya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasti Ayanam Mahat Tvayi me Ananda Vishaya Matir Madhupatiya Sakrit Ratim Udvahatat Ada Gange Vaugam Udandati O Lord of sweetness, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langyayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Niswaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everybody, welcome again to our Srimad Bhagavatam session this week. And we are doing second canto, chapter 6, new chapter now. So this is called Puruṣa-sūkta Confirmed. So this is part 1. And so this chapter, Puruṣa-sūkta Confirmed, Prabhupada titled the chapter this way. So basically why is because this chapter in this canto has many verses which are similar to the Puruṣa-sūkta. You know that there's in during rituals and ceremonies, installations, the priests likes to recite the Puruṣa-sūkta. Puruṣa-sūkta is a number of verses coming from the Rig Veda. So Rig Veda is one of the oldest Vedas that we have. Oops, just a moment. And the Puruṣa-sūkta is coming from this Rig Veda. And it's also mentioned again in Yajur Veda as well. So repeated again. And the same Puruṣa-sūkta is again confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Because many of the verses that we will see in this chapter will have the same verses, almost the same verses. Many of the lines would be the same also. So this is again to indicate Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree. So this kind of linkage between Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedas is very, very important because, you know, there are some people who will say, oh, the Srimad Bhagavatam is not part of the Vedas because it's Smriti, right? And then the Shruti. Shruti is the four Vedas. So, but the understanding is all five of them, the four Vedas as well as the Puranas and the Itihasas, which are known as the fifth Veda, is all emanating from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, and this is also considered directly Vedas. And at the same time, Vyasadeva wrote, after writing all the Vedas, after writing all the Puranas and histories, and then he felt that he needed to summarize everything. And that summarization is called Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra, Veda Anta Sutra. Veda Anta means end of knowledge because Anta means end, Veda means knowledge. So, and Sutra, in Sutra form, that means in very short form. It's like writing notes, short notes. So this is a summary. So Vedanta Sutra. And if you want to understand the summary properly, the commentary to that Vedanta Sutra is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam is the matured, ripened fruit. It's the final work written by Vyasadeva in his full maturity. Because even after writing everything, including Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva wasn't satisfied. We heard all this in Canto 1, right? And then Narada Muni came and explained to him, because you did not fully glorify the Supreme Lord, so that's why you're not satisfied. So therefore now prepare the final writing that you will do, which is the culmination of all your knowledge. And that is Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, you will find many phrases and words and connection referring back to the Vedas to indicate again how Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost Purana, and it is not subject to any fault. It's not within the three modes of nature. It is beyond the three modes of nature, and therefore it is called Amala Purana. Amala means spotless, and as such, it is the cream of the Vedas. All the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas, the philosophy of the Vedas are the Upanishads, and the essence of all the Upanishads are the Vedanta Sutra, and the full purport and commentary of the Vedanta Sutra is the Srimad Bhagavatam, all written by the same author, Veda Vyas. Okay, so anyway, so that's why it's called Puruṣa-sūkta confirmed. So before we go into this, dive into this chapter, let's recap what it was, what the previous chapter covered. So, as you know, we have mentioned this in our previous sessions several times. So, chapter 5 was the cause of all causes. So, Narada Muni, the son of Brahma, the youngest son of Brahma, he wanted to know what is the cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam. So, naturally, he went to ask his father. So, his father is Lord Brahma himself, right? And he glorified Lord Brahma and then told Lord Brahma, "You're so wonderful, so many things you're creating and everything. But at the same time, I have a doubt. The doubt is who created you and where did you get all this information and knowledge? And so, therefore, there must be somebody greater than you." So then Brahma, when he heard this, he was he was very pleased to hear this, right? Because pleased, number one, because he saw how Narada Muni was asking a lot of intelligent questions about the ultimate creator, and he wanted to know not only about the creator, he also wanted to know about creation. So how did this creation happen? What are the steps? What are the ingredients? What is the source? What is the foundation? Who is the coordinator? Right? Everything. So he was very pleased, and at the same time, he was also pleased because Narada Muni could see through the illusion of Maya to understand that Lord Brahma is not the ultimate creator. So then Brahma revealed his actual position. We heard how Brahma says that I myself am created. I am coming, I get my knowledge and I get my power and I get my authority, I get my foundation, everything from the Supreme Lord. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is my father because the lotus comes out from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu within this material creation, right? And from that lotus, Lord Brahma is born. So that is how Lord Brahma glorifies the Supreme Lord Vasudeva as the ultimate creator. And then he tells Narada, I am the secondary creator. I get my knowledge and I get my information, I get my powers, everything from that primary creator who created all the ingredients. So we heard in detail all these things. So then Brahma explains the difference between the jivas and the Supreme Lord. How the jiva is different, how the Supreme Lord is different. And then we heard about Brahma begins to speak about the primary creation, how the primary creation occurred, Karana Shrishti, the original cause, the cause of creation. So in that cause of creation, we heard about how the Lord of Maya, right, in the spiritual world, lying in one corner, Lord. Uh, the Lord expands himself as Mahavishnu, and he lies in one corner of the spiritual world, and then he glances. Sorry, he lies in the in the spiritual world in one corner, right? And then from him, the Karana ocean emanates. So this is the ocean of creation, ocean of causes. So within that ocean and within that situation, he's lying down and he glances upon another corner of the spiritual world where there is like a cloud, a small cloud. So that cloud is the material energy which is inert, sleeping. So, and that is called pradhan. So when he glances upon that material energy, that glance sends forth his expansions. The Lord expands himself as Kala, time, and then he also sends all the jivas who are within the body of Mahavishnu into the material energy. And the person who carries this is Lord Shiva. And in this way, Lord Shiva, who is none different than an expansion of Lord Vishnu, a transformation, not an expansion. So a transformation of Lord Vishnu. So in that way, Lord Shiva associates directly with material nature, and material nature becomes active. So from Pradhan, it becomes Prakriti. Prakriti is active, awakened. And then in that association with Lord Shiva, right, there is transformation going on. So then she becomes Mahatattva. And from Mahatattva, all the different parts of the universe becomes developed. So that is the primary creation, Karana Shrishti. And when the Lord glanced at the material energy, his spiritual energy enters into that glance also. So therefore his Shakti, uh, particularly Vaikarika Shakti, sorry, particularly Jnana Shakti, the Shakti of knowledge, Kriya Shakti, the Shakti of activity or creation, and Drava Shakti, the Shakti of ingredients, right? So these three Shaktis entered into material nature and they interacted with the false ego, and the false ego was transformed by these three Shaktis within the three modes of nature. So mixing with the three modes of nature with the false ego and these three Shaktis, they interacted. So without the Shakti, there wouldn't have been any interaction. So the Lord is ultimately the cause of everything, and the elements are there. So false ego is there, right? And then the Lord's Shakti, Jnana Shakti, associating with the mode of goodness, right, transforms the false ego, right? And in this way, all the different aspects of false ego are transformed. Mode of passion transforms the false ego. Mode of ignorance transforms the false ego. So the transformation of the mode of ignorance in the false ego creates the material ingredients, all the material ingredients like earth, water, fire, air, ether, like that. So that is the mode of ignorance. And then the mode of passion, ingredients are there. Then you need the mode of goodness to give the jnana shakti, the knowledge of of what to do with these ingredients. So that knowledge is there, right? And after that, knowledge is there, ingredients is there, but you need passion, you need creativity. So that is produced by the kriya shakti of the Lord in relation with the mode of passion. So therefore, in this way, creation takes place. And we heard in detail how the creation took place also, how one element transformed into another element. We heard, like for example, from tamasa, the false ego, transformed by the energized by the dravya shakti of the Lord, under the influence of the mode of ignorance, produces first of all sound, produces the element of air. Produces the element of ether, and within the element of ether there is sound. So that is the first object of the senses, sound. Object of the senses is called tanmatra, right? So sound is the first object. And then from air, the transformation continues. The Mahatattva, together with Kala, forces the transformation to continue. So from ether, we get air. And in air, there is sound as well as touch. So then from air, transformation occurs continuously and becomes fire. And in fire, there is sound, touch, and form. So like that, then water comes with taste. And then finally, earth comes with fragrance. So in this way, the five elements, the Panchabhuta, are formed. And in this way, the five Tanmatras, the objects of the senses, are also formed. And we also heard how the Jnanendriyas and the Karmendriyas, the senses for knowledge, like eyes, ears, nose, all this is also formed. And the senses for activity, like arms, legs, genitals, and all that is also formed. So altogether, 26 elements in the material creation. So we heard all this in our previous session, chapter 5. So that's Kriya Shakti I talked about, right? Kriya Shakti is a secondary creation, how each one transforms into another. And then the Lord Brahma continues to speak about the material creation, but now he is associating the material creation with the universal form of the Lord. So he connects the material creation with the universal form. He says ultimately the universal form of the Lord is the foundation for all of these creation which is happening. So, and there was some description about the universal form of the Lord. For example, we heard about the 14 planetary systems, how the universal form, the Virat Rupa, can be imagined as 14 planetary systems, 7 upper planetary systems from the waist above, and the 7 lower planetary systems from below the waist. Right. Another way to imagine them is you can see them as the Bhu Bhuvar Swarga. So you can classify these planets into Bhurloka. Bhurloka is anything below Earth. And then between Earth and heaven is called Bhuvarloka. And from heaven, Swarga, above, all the way to Brahmaloka is called Swarga or Swar. So in this way also we can imagine them. And the third way of imagining them is in the form of Varnashram Dharma. We heard how the Virat Rupa represents the 4 Varnas of society. The Brahmana represents the head, right? The arms, the Kshatriyas represent the arms, the stomach and the waist is represented by the Vaishyas, and the lotus feet of the Lord is represented, or the legs is represented by the Shudras. So we talked about that also to some extent in our previous session. Right. So now that Virat Rupa of the Lord, which is associated with the Lord, one of the forms, it's a form of the Lord, but it's an illusory form of the Lord because it's a material form made up of material elements. So, but anyway, it is related to the Lord. So that we will now continue in chapter 6. We will hear how further Lord Brahma speaks about this Virat Rupa and the role the Virat Rupa plays within the material creation. So then Lord Brahma continues, he tells Narada Muni, Brahmo Vacha. So Lord Brahma speaks. The mouth of the Virat Purusha is the generating center of the voice. So Lord Brahma now is going to describe every body part of the Virat Rupa and what that body part is associated with, and the function of those body parts of the Virat Rupa. So as I told you before, the Virat Rupa is an imaginary construct of the body of the Lord from the material elements and material creation. So assembling all of this, it's like they imagine that this is like a supreme being. Okay. So now he's going to describe the Virat Rupa, the universal form. So he begins with the mouth. So the mouth of the Virat Purusha is the generating center of the voice. So that is understandable. We all know that. And the controlling deity is fire. So fire is like in if anything to do with the voice, the what do you call element which is related to the voice is fire. So this is understood in Ayurveda also, right? In Ayurveda, they understand that sound is created by vata, right? It produces sound, but but it is the element of fire which transforms that sound in terms of quality, in terms of tone, and in terms of emotional expressions. So if somebody is, the pitta in the body is very high, they are the people with high pitta, their voices are very powerful. They have a very glaring voice. They are, very loud, very glaring, and penetrating kind of voices. So so if you want good voice, then pitta is important. Particularly the fire element is important. So Ayurveda works in that way, lah. So this is I've put a picture of space. So in space, the arrangement of the stars sort of looks like as if like this is like a mouth. So just to represent the Virat Rupa, the universal form of the Lord. So and he says, and the controlling deity of that of fire, of the voice, because it's related to fire, the controlling deity of the voice is the deity of fire, which is Agni Devla. So that is the first description of the Virat Rupa's body part, which is the mouth. Mouth is very important, right? Because mouth is where vacham or words are spoken. So the Vedas come from the mouth. And in spiritual life also, the first thing we we hear because someone speaks. If someone doesn't speak, then we cannot hear. So the words emanating from the mouth of the Lord, that is the origin. That's the first thing. So therefore, mouth is described. And then Brahma continues, his skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns. So Brahma is not talking about the skin of the Lord. So his skin and 6 other layers. So that means there are 7 layers of the body. So these 7 layers, in if you look at the structure of the skin in science, even in science, there are 7 layers of the skin. So basically, there are 2 components. There is the epidermis, that means the outer skin, and then there is the dermis, which is the inner skin. So the epidermis has 5 layers. So these are the 5 layers I've put here. And the dermis contains 2 layers, which is the papillary layer and the reticular layer. So altogether 7 layers. So this corresponds with modern science also about how the skin has 7 layers. So that is also mentioned here. and and this corresponds with the his skin, and the 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns. So the Vedic hymns have 7 Vedic meters. So, in Sanskrit, there is grammar, there is uh, what else? There is grammar, there is etymology or nirukti. Nirukti means context, how the meaning is changing from one context to another. And there is pronunciation, vyakarana, pronouncing Sanskrit. And the fourth aspect of language, right? That's grammar, that's pronunciation, there is meaning of context. And the fourth one is meter or rhyme or rhythm. So this is not there in every language. Some languages have a little bit of it, but Sanskrit has the full aspect of this rhythm or rhyme. When they chant Sanskrit verses, there is a certain way to chant it. It's like a sing-along verse. Like, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, so Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yuyutsavaha Mamakaschaiva Mamakakam, sorry, Samaveda Yuyutsavaha Mamakastam, oh, forgot that verse. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. So, the way I said that verse in a particular rhythm or the particular, it's like something like singing. So that is called a meter. So this meter is called Tristubi meter or something like that, right? So like that, there are 7 different meters. There is another meter, Tristub meter, for example, in chapter 2, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha prachami tvam brahma sammuda chetaha. So in that particular verse, the meter is slightly different. Tristibu. So in this kind of, so like that, altogether there are 7 meters. So Gayatri also has a particular meter. So like that, there are 7 meters in the Vedic hymns, and it corresponds with the skin, the layer of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. And you can also look at it another way. The Vedic scriptures, they are made up of the 5 Vedas. Why 5? Because the scripture says so. In the Vedas itself, it says 4 plus 1. The 4 Vedas are the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda. And plus 1. The plus 1 is the 5th Veda. And the 5th Veda is the Puranas and the Itihasas. So together they form the 5th Veda. So 5. So those are the 5 layers, which is in the epidermis, the 5 top layers. And then there is 2 more layers underneath, and that is the Vedanga and the Upaveda. So 5 Vedas plus the Veda Anga. Veda Anga is like the, Jyotish, astrology, and then there is what do you call different types of there are Sanskrit. There is also Vedanga, the different types of study of Sanskrit, like Nirukti, Chanda. Chanda is meter. right? And then there is grammar, Vyakarana, so like that. So this is all Vedanga. And then there are Upavedas. Upavedas is like the knowledge of Ayurveda, for example, is an example of Upaveda. Dhanurveda, the art of fighting. What else? The art of architecture. Stapate Veda. Gandharva Veda, the art of music and dancing and entertainment. So like that, Artha Veda. So like that, there are different types of Upavedas. So altogether, 4 plus 1 Vedas plus Vedanga plus Upaveda, altogether 7. So this is another way of looking at it. So then Brahma continues, and his tongue. So now we have covered the mouth, we have covered the skin of the Lord, and now he's talking about the tongue of the Lord. So his tongue, the Virat Rupa's tongue, is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to the demigods, the forefathers, and the general mass of people. You know, the Lord is called Yagneshwara, and the fire sacrifice, the fire which comes in the fire sacrifice, is also called as the tongue of the Lord. So the tongue of the Lord, you know, in every yagya that we do, the fire which is burning, that is called the tongue of the Lord. So that's why we feed all kinds of things into the fire. Grains are poured inside, ghee is poured inside, all kinds of the 5 panchagavya is poured inside the fire, the fruits and everything. And fire is also described as yagya, and yagya is not only fire sacrifice, it is the sacrifice. There are all kinds of yagyas. So if you read Bhagavad Gita, I think chapter 10, if I'm not mistaken, or yeah, so there the Lord talks about different types of sacrifices. What is the yagya for the brahmachari? What is the yagya for the grihastha? What is the yagya for different classes of people, right? So all of this is basically anything that we do, which we do for the pleasure of the Lord. That is called yagya. So for example, we are working. So when we are working, we offer the fruits of our work and we do it for the pleasure of the Lord. So that means it becomes yagya. So Prabhupada gives a mention about this. So there is no question of impersonal. Uh, there is no question of impersonal voidness in the spiritual platform. So why particularly Brahma is taking the trouble to mention body parts of the Lord? First, he talked about the mouth. Then he talked about the tongue. Before that, he talked about the skin. Then he talked about the tongue. So, and he'll go on talking about different body parts, just to ensure, just to make it very clear that the Lord is not impersonal. How can you be impersonal when all these body parts are clearly mentioned? So, just to indicate that the Supreme Lord is a person with all these specific body parts relating to the Lord. So, and then Prabhupada continues, in the spiritual world, the Lord is the sublime enjoyer of everything. And the living entities there are all engaged in his transcendental, loving service without any contamination of the modes of material nature. So that is in the spiritual world. But in the material world, we being in the material world, right, everything is contaminated with the 3 modes of material nature. So whatever activities that we do is all contaminated with the 3 modes of material nature. But if we connect those activities and those ingredients within the material world, even though it is contaminated with the 3 modes of material nature, but if we connect it in the correct way with the Supreme Lord, then that activity, the person who's doing the activity, the ingredients of the activity all becomes spiritual. So that's what Prabhupada is saying here, right? So and that's why the fire is important. The yagya is important, the concept of yagya. So whatever activity that we do, although it's material activity, whatever ingredients that we use, although it's material ingredients, and although our bodies are material, but if we do it for the pleasure of the Lord, that means if we pour the results or the fruits of our activities into the yagya for the pleasure of the Lord, then that activity becomes spiritual. That is the great secret of spiritual life, to connect everything with the Lord, not to renounce. The perfection of renunciation is that we don't use anything for ourselves. The fruits are completely given for the pleasure of the Lord. So therefore, Prabhupada says, Sarvopadi Vinir Muktam. This verse is there in the Nectar of Devotion, one of the verses that we memorize in the Nectar of Devotion. Sarvopadi Vinir Muktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. So this verse is a definition of bhakti. There are few verses which define bhakti here and there. Srimad Bhagavatam, this one. But this one is coming from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from the Nectar of Devotion also. So this was Bhaktir Uchyate, that which is called Bhakti, Bhaktir Uchyate. What is that? Bhakti? That Bhakti is uh, Hirshikena Hrishikesha, Sevanam. That means using our material senses, using all our material senses. That means the knowledge senses as well as the activity senses, Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. Both our senses, that means everything, our body, lah, within our body, our hands, our legs, our mouth, our tongue, our ears, everything, right? So using all our senses for the sevanam, for the service of Rishikesha. So Rishikena means using the senses. Rishikesha means master of the senses. So who's the real master of the senses? Rishi means the senses. Esha means master. So the Supreme Lord is that person. So if we connect our senses and our activity of our senses with the Supreme Lord, the master of the senses, we try to satisfy his senses, particularly his tongue, right? And that is the fire, the yagya, right? Yagya doesn't mean only fire. Yagya means anything done for the pleasure of the Lord. For example, cooking, right? So cooking is we need money to buy ingredients. So whatever activity that we do, we buy ingredients. It's all material activity. We are using material money, we are using our material work, and we buy material ingredients. And then we are cooking. So using our body is also material, right? But if we offer that food, if we offer that activity of cooking to the Lord for his pleasure, right? The cooking is done for his pleasure, the food is offered for his pleasure, and everything, all our work and our job and our activities is finally to offer the food to the pleasure of the Lord. Then that becomes spiritual. The entire chain of activity plus everything connected to that activity becomes spiritual. But there is some condition how you must do it. It must be sarvopadi vinir muktam. Sarvopadi vinir muktam means it must be devoid, free from all material designation and prestige and desires. One must not have any contamination of material desire or material designation, thinking that I'm doing this for myself or I'm doing this because I'm good, or all these things. No, it must be free from material designations, whatever seva that we do, and it must be tat paratvena nirmalam. It must be free, uncontaminated. Tat paratvena nirmalam. Nirmala means uncontaminated. It must be uncontaminated by what do they mean by uncontaminated? Uncontaminated by fruitive activity. That means we want the fruit of something. We are doing it because we want to enjoy the fruit. So no, it must not be contaminated with these things. So then it is directly for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay. So Prabhupada says, originally, since all the senses are produced of the Lord's reservoir of senses, the sensual activities of the material world are to be purified by the process of devotional service. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. That's what I was telling you just now also. So we have to use everything. You have to use our life. We have to use our body. We have to use our resources. We have to use our family. We have to use everything connected to us ultimately to serve the Supreme Lord, indirectly or directly, right? And free from any sense of proprietorship, thinking that we are the doer, and free from contamination of trying to enjoy the fruits. So we do it as a yagya for the pleasure of the Lord, right? We study for the pleasure of the Lord. We teach for the pleasure of the Lord. We do any activity for the pleasure of the Lord. Even we sleep and we eat also for the pleasure of the Lord. So how do we, like for example, we have to eat, but we eat prasadam. And while we are eating prasadam, we meditate upon the Lord, right? That's why we say the prasadam prayer, right? It's a meditation, right? So in this way, that is the understanding. And Prabhupada continues, and thus the perfection of life can be attained simply by using the present position of the material activities, purifying. So in this way, we are perfectly applying everything in our lives. So that is what Prabhupada came to teach. Connect everything. We are doing so many things in our lives. Just add Krishna into every sphere of activity. Then our lives become perfect. Right? So then Prabhupada continues, every living entity is engaged in some sort of service, either for the self, for the family, or for the society, for the country, etc. But unfortunately, all such services are rendered due to material attachment. So, right, there are so many things that we do. Everybody is serving something. Either I'm serving my family, I'm serving my child, I'm serving my parent, I'm serving my boss, I'm serving society. So nobody can say they are free from service. Somehow or other, everybody is serving something. Okay? Or they may be serving themselves also. So, and all of these services currently are due to material attachment. We think we are this body, we think we have this position, we think that we have this relationship, and therefore our understanding of our service is based on this, right? Like I feel that I'm this body, and therefore I must serve my family, therefore I must serve my child, therefore I must serve my parents. So that kind of relationship only is due to the body, but that is not going to help us. That will bring us to heaven, right? Because we are doing punya, but it's not going to free us from the cycle of material nature. So how we must change is we must link everything to yagya. We do this, we serve the we serve our parents, we serve our children, we do our job, we serve society for Krishna's pleasure. That's the goal. We do it as a yagya because I should do this for the Lord's pleasure. So that is the perfection of life. Because otherwise, just like this water I'm showing you in the background here, right? Everybody has different self-interest, right? So all these different self-interest is like drops on a pond. So, you can see many, many ripples. So there is no harmony. There is no harmony. There is only chaos because everybody is self-centered according to his self-service or service to his society or his family. And when another person comes in close contact with another person, sometimes his service will clash with our service because his self-interest is different, our self-interest is different, another person's self-interest is different. So when we all put together, so there is no harmony within this. You can see here the water here. There is no harmony within the water, right? So the harmony can occur in society when all of society begins to serve the Yageshvara, the Yagneshvara. So Prabhupada says the attachments of the material affinity may be simply changed to the service of the Lord. So don't change our activity. Our activity can be the same, but the motivation and the purpose of our activity is what we are changing. We change that for the pleasure of the Lord. Then it becomes devotional service. It becomes spiritualized. So the attachments of the material affinity may be simply changed to the service of the Lord. And thus the treatment of being freed from material attachment begins automatically because by doing that, we become purified. Our activities become purified. Our activities are no longer binding us to the material world. In fact, they are now devotional services because they are in connection with the Supreme Lord. So what happens then? All these different self-interests will all merge together into one single harmonious pattern within the water. So you can see here, for example, because everybody has one center. Nobody has different centers now. And what is that center? That center is Yagya. Yagya for the service of who's the Lord of Yagya? Krishna, right? Or Vishnu. So he is the Lord of Yagya. So that is how Varnashram was ideally organized. So everybody, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they have different services, but they are all serving for the same purpose, which is for the pleasure of Yagneshwara. Okay? And that's the same thing which we are trying to do in Krishna Consciousness Society. We are teaching everybody how to live a Krishna conscious life. Living a Krishna conscious life means full time, everything that we do, somehow or other, we are linking or trying to link with the Supreme Lord. So that is what we do. So Prabhupada says, and then we get harmony because the whole society, the whole world is single focused. The process of liberation is therefore easier through devotional service than any other methods. Why? Because every other method of yoga, for example, requires heavy sacrifice. One has to leave the family, one has to be alone, one has to not eat food, one has to control the breath, so many things that is in the yoga asanas, right? So it's difficult. And in different practices, then there's jnana yoga, which means again you have to fully retire, to dedicate your life fully into studying and searching out the supreme truth in Vedic scriptures. For that, we need proper training, we need proper time, we don't need distractions. So it's difficult to do all these other yogas and all these other dharmas, right? So therefore, through devotional service, it's a lot easier because we simply have to adjust everything that is in our life, purify our life, and adjust it by connecting our activities with the Supreme Lord. Well, the Guru will teach us how to do that based on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So it is one is subjected to various, it is a fact that one is subjected to various kinds of tribulations if one is impersonally attached. So if somebody is taking the impersonal path to merge into the Brahman, that pathway is very difficult. So in fact, it's mentioned in the chapter 12, Bhagavad Gita, right? Klesho adhikataras. So much of difficulties one will face, right? If one is going through the impersonal path of Brahman realization. So much easier just to become a devotee. Okay. So then Brahma continues. After talking about the mouth, after talking about the skin, and then the tongue, now the Lord continues, Brahma continues with description of the nostrils of the Virat Rupa. His two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. So from the nostrils of the Virat Rupa, all the air elements all over the world, externally outside our body and internally within our body, they are produced. They are, and it's all coming from the two nostrils of the Lord. So you can see how the image of the Lord is just like us human beings. Even in the Christian Bible, it is described how human beings are made in the image of the Lord. So therefore, human beings are special, right? We are directly the children of God. So and of course, everyone is children of God, but we are special in the sense that we, in human life, one can understand and realize God and relate with God. In other forms of life, it's not possible to do that. So you can't expect a chicken, for example, to relate with God, right? It may happen, but it's very rare. So like this. So when we talk about externally and internally, so internally also within our body, there are 5 types of air or prana, right? Uh, 5 types of air which is circulating within our body. One is in the stomach, circulating within our stomach. Another one is circulating within our our what do you call blood and our nervous system. So that is another type of air. And then there is a third type of air which is within our lungs and our breathing passage. And there is a fourth type of air which is in the in between our eyes, in the place where we put the tilak, you know. So in between there, at the lower part of the brain, so there is one type of air, and the final type of air is on top of the head. So within the head itself, there are two types of air, and all of these airs, they connect, they all flow, and they connect with the heart. So in every part of the body, there are different types of air, and they all flow and connect with the heart. And within the heart, these five different types of air are all mixing and floating, and it creates a seat for the Atma, for the soul. So the soul, very tiny atomic soul, is sitting on the throne of the five types of air within our body. So any one of these air, so this air is material, right? And it's a very fine, subtle material element, right? But it is the seat of the soul, although the soul is spiritual. And any kind of adjustments to the air, if there is any disturbance to the air, it will affect our entire body. It will affect because two of the types of air are in our brains. So it can affect our thinking, it can affect our psychology, it can affect our thought process. So diseases of the body can come due to the disturbances of this air. So these disturbances of the air can happen due to lifestyle, due to bad food, due to drugs, and due to magic, black magic, and things like that. And it can be also due to wrong types of meditation processes. You know, there are some people who practice Kundalini yoga, and they permanently disturb the air within the body, and they go mad. So that is dangerous. Playing with the five types of air. So anyway, it's all coming from the nostrils of the Lord, internally within our body and externally outside. And then, after talking about the nostrils, Brahma speaks about how the nostrils connect with the smelling powers of the Lord. So his smelling powers, the Lord's ability to smell. So this is Jnanendriya. It's not just it's basically the tan matra, right? We have Jnanendriya. The Jnanendriya is the nose. Like earlier, we talked about the mouth. Mouth is the Jnanendriya, uh, as well as the Karmendriya, both. At the same time, the voice. Voice is the tan matra, the object of the senses, because it produces the sound, right? Then we had the tongue of the Lord. The tongue of the Lord is to taste. So the tan matra is tasting, the jnanendriya is the tongue. And then we had the nostrils of the Lord. So the jnanendriya is the nose, the nostrils, and the tan matra, or the object of the senses of connected to the nostril, is smelling, to smell, the object of the senses. So the Lord, the Virat Rupa's object of the senses, the smelling powers generate the Ashwini Kumaras, demigods, and all kinds of medicinal herbs. So the Virat Rupa, the ability to smell, the sense of smelling power within the Lord, the Virat Rupa, is the foundation from which the Ashwini Kumaras developed. So the Ashwini Kumaras came from there in that sense. And also all kinds of medicinal herbs. So Ashwini Kumaras are sometimes called the physicians of the Devatas. They are like the doctors. So, and connected with the doctors are usually herbs and medicines. So, and all of this is connected with the smelling power of the Lord. And his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. So, you know, you need energy to breathe. So therefore, the energies which fuel the breathing process, they they produce the different kinds of fragrance within this universe. His eyes are the generating centers of Rupanam. Rupana means form, Tejasam, splendorous. So bright and splendorous forms, anything which is bright and splendorous form, all kinds of forms, we are able to see the form because of splendor of the sun, right? Without the sun, without a light source, we cannot see anything. So in that way, the eyes of the Virat Rupa are the generating centers of the form and all kinds of vibrancy, brilliance, and splendor. They all come from the eyes of the Lord. His eyeballs, you can see how they go even more specific. His eyeballs are Suryasya, the sun, and the heavenly planets. So they represent the eyeballs of the Lord. So they all, the foundation of all of those planets and the sun itself is from the eyeball of the Lord. So again, you can see the detail to which they are trying to describe how the Supreme Lord is a person, not impersonal. His ears hear from all sides and are Tirthanam, receptacles of the Vedas. So the mouth produces the Vedas and the ears receive the Vedas. So Lord Brahma received the Vedas from the ears. So we also, the Jiva, the Lord is that's one of the difference between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. Vishnu Tattva, the mouth produces the sound, the transcendental sound. And the Jiva Tattva must listen to that transcendental sound with the ears, right? So that is how it works. So his ears from all sides, they hear from all sides and are Tirthanam. Tirthanam means the receptacle, the place of holding, the receptacle for all the Vedas. And his sense of hearing. So ear, when you talk about the ears, this is Indriya. This is sense. This is the Jnanendriya, right? But when they talk about the sense of hearing, this is Tanmatra. What does the ear do? The ear is useless if they cannot hear, isn't it? So the object of the senses, here the sense is ear, the object of the senses is hearing. Okay. So what is the Tanmatra of the Lord? His sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky, because all the sound comes from sky. Remember earlier, right? Ether is the element which carries sound originally. So his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound. So similarly, not only the Lord is Tirthanam, not only the Lord is Tirthanam, the receptacle of the Vedas, anybody who repeats the same message in parampara is also called Tirthanam. So that's why, Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he received Vidura, he glorified Vidura by saying, "You are like a walking tirtha. You are a walking receptacle of the lotus feet of the Lord, or you are the walking receptacle of the message of the Lord." Because everything to do with the Lord, if somebody carries that message, if somebody carries that service, then that person becomes also a Tirthanam. In other words, devotees. So devotees, because that's what devotees do, right? They carry the message of the Lord. Therefore, in that sense, they are also called Tirthanams. And they are respected and glorified and worshipped as much as the Lord. So then Lord Brahma continues. His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of saubhagyasya, auspicious opportunities. Saubhagya means auspiciousness, asya means activities. So his bodily surface, so the body of the Lord, the surface of the body of the Lord is the ground, is the foundation for active principles of everything. So anyone wants to do anything, they need a foundation to do something on, isn't it? Like we want to work, we want to do something. we need a foundation to stand upon. So, like where Prabhupada wanted to preach Krishna consciousness everywhere, so he needed a foundation. So therefore, he built ISKCON, right? So, and whatever activities that human beings want to do, they need a place to do it. So earth is the place to do it. It's called karma loka, the place of activities. So in that way, the body of the Lord is related in that way. So the surface of the body of the Lord is the breeding ground for all active principles of to doing everything. Anything one wants to do, any karanam, any activity that we want to do, we need a foundation. And the body of the Lord is the body, the Lord himself is providing that foundation. And it is the and anything which is done on the body of the Lord is considered auspicious activity. So any auspicious activity which is done which it will bring saubhagyasya, auspiciousness. The outcome will be auspicious only. So his skin. So just now we mentioned skin. We're talking about the bodily surface. So obviously on the bodily surface also there is skin. So together his skin, like the moving air, is the generating center of all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice. So that's why I said the bodily surface is the place of activity. So what activity is auspicious? Activities uh, which are prescribed by the Vedas, and that means activities of sacrifice. So any sacrifice that one does, as per the Vedas, it brings auspiciousness. And it is due to the Lord only. That if at all it's there, it's due to the Lord only. So then Brahma continues, the hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation. So we are continuing to imagine the Virat Rupa here. So the Virat Rupa, it's again, they are showing how the Virat Rupa is a person. So even they are going to the detail of the hair on the body of the Lord. So, on our skin is not hairless. So there is hair on the skin. So on the body of the Lord also, all the vegetation, everything that grows upon the ground, like trees, like shrubs, like whatever plants that grows on the ground, it is like the hair on the body of the Lord. And because it's connected to the Lord, particularly these trees which are required as ingredients of yajna. So the auspicious trees particularly are glorified, especially as the hairs of the Lord. So like the, sandalwood tree, jackfruit tree, banyan tree, mango tree, ashwata tree, So in this way, they are all auspicious trees. So the hairs on the body of the Lord, of the Virat Rupa. And then Brahma continues, the hairs on his head. So we have hair on the body and we also have hair on the head. The hairs on his head and face, like eyebrows, right, are reservoirs of the clouds. So this is to imagine the Virat Rupa. So you can imagine like the clouds, they can form eyebrows, they can form the hair, curly hair, the clouds can form like that. And his nails are the breeding ground of Vidyutam. Vidyutam means lightning. The nails of the Lord is the breeding ground of lightning, Vidyutam. It is also the breeding ground of Shila. Shila means all kinds of stones. And it is the breeding ground of Loha. Loha means all kinds of minerals, including iron. So Loha specifically means iron. So it's basically the breeding ground. The nails of the Lord is where electricity generates. So how we can understand this? Because when we look at nails, nail is hard, isn't it? So, and if our body is healthy, our nails will be clear. There will not be any streaks or any lines or any kind of any kind of whatever which is marring the nails. It will be very uh, it will be very clear if our body is healthy. If our body is lacking in nutrition, like there is some kind of mineral which is lacking, then the nails will become discolored. It will become whitish. There will be streaks. or there will be marks on the nails. So, when you go to Ayurvedic doctors, they will first of all ask to see your nails, to see what's the condition of your nutrition, what's the condition of your body. So, in that way, the nails of the Lord, they are splendorous, they are shining, they are shimmering. So, because they are shining and shimmering, what is shining and shimmering and splendorous? Lightning. So, therefore, lightning originates from the nails of the Lord. And they are also hard, like the stones. So, therefore, stones also generate from the polished stones, right? And it is also the reservoir of minerals because the nails represent that. So, interesting, right? So, Prabhupada says, one can therefore collect all sorts of necessities of life from the person of the Lord. So, from within the universe, which is the universal form of the Lord, all kinds of necessities of life can be collected simply by the grace of the Lord. Because of the grace of the Lord, we have all these ingredients for the necessity of our life. So, in other words, also, everything which is needed in life is produced because of the Supreme Lord. It is due to the mercy of the Supreme Lord that we have all these things. So, the Lord is the Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. So then Brahma continues. The Lord's arms are the productive fields for Loka Palanam. Loka Palanam means the master of the directions. So, or in other words, the demigods, the devatas. There are 33 million devatas. So, and some of them have different categories and status and positions and roles and responsibilities. So, like that. So, the Lord's arms is where the devatas sit. So it's in the Virat Rupa. In the Bhagavad Gita also, we heard the same description, how the Lord's arms are the reservoir of the Devatas. So in other words, Kshatriyas are also uh, residing on the arms of the Virat Purusha, because they are the ones who are controlling, organizing, managing, right? So the arm is like that. So remember, these verses are also there in the Rig Veda. So that's why Puruṣa-sūkta confirmed. The Supreme Lord is reconfirming in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Lord's arms are the productive fields of the Loka Palanam and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass. What is the purpose of the arm? The arm is to protect. Protect particularly what? If we see boxing, what does the arm do? The arm protects the head, isn't it? It doesn't protect other parts. It protects particularly the head. So therefore, it's meant to protect the Brahminical culture. That is the main purpose of the Kshatriya, to give protection, not only to the Brahminical culture, to the whole society actually. So when Brahminic and the greatest danger to society is to the head, the Brahminical culture. Even if the leg is chopped off, the body can still survive. Even if the leg, even if the arms are chopped off, the body can still survive. Even if the stomach has problems, the body can still survive. But if the head is chopped off, the body cannot survive. It will die. So the Brahmanas are of utmost importance because they direct the society in the right direction. The eyes of the head direct society in the right direction, and they have the ability to discriminate what is to be put into the mouth of the Lord, what shouldn't be put into the mouth of the Lord. So therefore the Vedas are the guides which tell us what is sin, what is punya, what is transcendental offerings of the to be put in the fire of the yagya of the Lord. So therefore the arm's role is to protect, is very important. Protection is the main point of any leader or administrator. If a leader or an administrator cannot give protection, then it is not a leader. It is basically a false show. If they are there only for prestige, only for position, only for power, only for organization, only, but when it comes to the protection, they cannot do that, then it is not a proper Kshatriya or a leader. Okay. So Prabhupada says, simply by accepting the Lord as the supreme proprietor of everything, Since he is actually so, one can achieve the highest perfection of life. So this is the this is the adjustment to our thinking that we have to do. We have to make this adjustment. A pious person will always go through his life thinking that the Lord is the proprietor for everything. Even what a devotee, all the more so, they depend completely upon the Lord. So that's why Arjuna completely depended upon the Lord. The Pandavas completely depended upon the Lord, right? The Devas also, during the churning of the milk ocean, at that time they were beyond their situation. And one fine time we will discuss about the churning of the milk ocean. In that example, you will see how completely dependent they were to the personality of Godhead. In fact, it was described in that situation how, just like how the mother duckling moves and all the ducklings are following the mother duckling, in the same way, the Devatas were all following behind the Supreme Lord's guidance, just like the ducklings following the mother duckling. So, therefore, we have to come to this understanding and realization that the Lord is in command. He knows what He is doing, and there is a grand plan and a scheme behind everything that happens in our life, in everybody's life, in the course of history, in the course of society. So, we just have to have faith that the Lord is in control. It may not turn out, according to our situation or whatever it is, right? But if we have that faith that the Lord is in control, just simply understanding that, even though, we may not be fully realized, but at least understanding that theoretically and going through life with that kind of philosophy is enough to elevate us. So Prabhupada is saying, because that is karma yoga in action, right? To connect everything in the beyond karma yoga, actually, because that's the one of the symptoms of surrender. And when you talk about surrender to the Lord, that is bhakti yoga. One of the symptoms of surrender is to understand that the Lord is the controller of everything and that He is the only maintainer. There's no other person that maintains me. Only the Lord is my only maintainer. To have this kind of conviction, that is one of the symptoms of surrender. So then Prabhupada continues. The obedient son of the father never goes against the will of the Lord. So Prabhupada gives an example. How simply by surrendering to the will of the Lord, right, one elevates himself naturally. So the example is like the son. The obedient son of the father never goes against the will of the father. And as a result, therefore, he passes his life very peacefully because the father is telling him all the good things and he has given all good advice. And instead of rebelling, instead of arguing, instead of going against, the son also says, okay, I will just follow you, father. You know everything. You are the wisest. Whatever that you tell me, I will do accordingly. So in that way, the son's life is peaceful because the father already knows all the pitfalls. Right? The parents, basically, they know all the pitfalls to avoid. And in this way, they benefit. The younger generation will benefit. That's one of the problems with the younger generation because nowadays they don't want to take any advice or any kind of suggestions and they think they know better. So, unfortunately, they have to go through the pitfalls on their own and learn from experience. So, Prabhupada says the first class intelligent person is one who learns simply by hearing. Somebody says this is not good. Okay, he hears that and he does something. The second class intelligent person is they have to experience it themselves. Then only they will learn. The third class is after experiencing also they don't learn. So that is how to, so anyway, Prabhupada is saying here, the obedient son of the father never goes against the will of the father and therefore passes life very peacefully in concurrence with the head of the family, the father. So similarly, the Lord being the Father, all living beings should fully and satisfactorily discharge the duty and will of the Father as faithful sons. How to know the will, right? Is through the Shastra and the Guru. So the Guru can explain the Shastra, and the Shastra is basically the will of the Lord. So we can understand what the Lord likes, what the Lord wants us to do with our lives. This very mentality, even though we are not doing it, this is the important point. Bhakti yoga is so powerful that even though we are not yet doing it, but the mentality that if we have convinced ourselves that way, simply by having this mentality, at once it brings peace and prosperity to human society. So this is very important as well. So there are many stories, which demonstrate and reflect this point very nicely. How we think we are the doer, and we think that we are in control, but ultimately the Lord is in control. And if we can just surrender to the will of the Lord, we do our best, we do our planning, we do everything wonderfully, right? But after that, we surrender the outcome and the results fully to the Lord, whatever the Lord desires, right? Just like they say, work like plan and work like as if there is no God, but after the work is done, then uh, behave like as if everything is done by the Lord. So, in other words, when it's within our hands, we do everything that we can to do everything correctly. We do our full effort, right? But once the work is done, we completely leave it to the Lord. We renounce the fruits, we renounce the outcome. Everything is up to the Lord. We have done our part. The outcome and the result now is completely up to you, the Lord. So that gives us peace. We don't have to worry, right? We don't have to think. So in this way, anything that happens to devotees also, if we can understand that everything is happening for a reason and it is being orchestrated by the Lord, and one is surrendered to the will of the Lord, then the peace will come automatically. So there's an example also. I like to say this example a few times. I've heard it. So there is the story about this girl going in a plane. So in the plane, there's a young girl, and this young girl is sitting business class in the plane, and nobody is there with the young girl. It's a small girl, maybe 8 years old, 7 years old, like that. And there's no one accompanying her. She's going alone. And in that same flight also, there's another man, and there are a few and other people as well within that flight. And when the flight is going on, when they are flying in the flight, suddenly there's turbulence. So when there's turbulence, and the turbulence is so bad that people were worried, they were in fear. So somebody is crying, somebody is praying, somebody is panicking, somebody is fainting, right? So all kinds of things is happening. But this young girl alone, she's very calm. She's very peaceful. She's just continuing her computer game or reading a storybook or whatever it is. So anyway, the turbulence goes on for some time, and then after that, the turbulence stops, and then finally the plane lands also. So after the plane lands, then there's one person within that plane who was noticing this girl, and then the person was thinking, it's so wonderful. This girl, she was so peaceful while the plane was up in the sky in the turbulence. We were all adults, and we were also disturbed, but the girl is so peaceful. So I'll ask her. So therefore the person went to the girl and then asked the girl, hey girl, right, I just want to ask you, just now there was turbulence, everybody was panicking, and but you alone, you were peaceful, you were not disturbed at all. Could you tell me why? And then the girl just looked at him and said, well, my daddy is the pilot. So my daddy will take me safely. No need to worry. So nothing will happen to me. So she had that kind of faith that whatever her father is, since her father is the one in control, so I'll be safe. Nothing will happen to me. So that kind of confidence is what we have. Like sometimes when we are driving, the children are sleeping in the car, and no matter how the driving is going, they are peacefully sleeping only. So they are confident that we will reach the destination. Whatever the journey may be, we are in good hands. So in the same way, we have to understand that the captain of the pilot of our life is the Supreme Lord, if we surrender to the Supreme Lord. So when we surrender to the Supreme Lord, we can rest assured that every outcome will be a positive outcome, that it will bring us only to the closer to his lotus feet. So anyway, Lord Brahma continues to Narada. Thus, the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter of Bhur, Bhuvaha, and Swa, as well as for all that we need. So the Lord's steps, not only the Lord's body parts, the Lord's steps are also being described here by Lord Brahma. Just like, Lord Trivikram. Trivikram is Vamana Dev. He took 3 steps in charity from Bali Maharaj, right? The first step, which he stepped, covered the entire lower planetary systems, the Bhur Loka. The second step covered the entire upper planetary systems, the Swarga Loka and above. So then he asked Bali Maharaj, where shall I put the third step? So you can put the third step on my head. And within the third step is the Bhuvar Loka. That's where Bali Maharaj was at that time. So in the Bhuvar Loka, so therefore all 3 steps represent this. So the Lord's forward steps represent the 3 planetary dimensions, the Bhuvar Loka, the Bhu Loka, and the Swah Loka. Bhur, Bhuva, Swa. These are the 3 dimensions of planetary systems within the universe. His charana, his lotus feet. So Hari Charana, the lotus feet of Lord Hari, serve as protection from all kinds of fear. So this is what we have to remember. So therefore, we all have to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the lotus feet of the Lord? The lotus feet of the Lord is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 and Canto 2. So this is the lotus feet of the Lord, is described. What else is the lotus feet of the Lord? The pure devotees of the Lord, they reside in the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is the lotus feet of the Lord. The dust is on the lotus feet of the Lord. That is service to the lotus feet of the Lord. So any kind of service to the Supreme Lord, that is also taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Serving the Guru, serving pure devotees is also taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So Charana means the feet of the Lord, serve as protection from all kinds of fear. So Abhaya Charanara Vinda. So Srila Prabhupada's name, when he got initiation, Abhaya, that means no fear, fearless, because Charanara Vinda, he has surrendered to the feet of the Lord, the lotus feet of the Lord. So Prabhupada continues, this absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord is called pure devotional service. Very nice definition of pure devotional service. Anything that comes our way, we surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. No one should have any kind of doubt in this matter. So Prabhupada is very emphatic on that. Nor should one be inclined to seek the help of any other demigods, because all of them are dependent on him only. So we depend only exclusively on the Lord. And what is the form of the Lord? The form of the Lord in Kali Yuga is the holy names of the Lord. So we depend completely only in the holy names of the Lord for everything. So we don't have to worry about any other thing. No need to worry about this yagya, that yagya, because we are already doing Sankirtan yagya. No need to worry about this ritual, that ritual, because devotees put their full faith into the lotus feet of the Lord, which is his holy names. Right? So that is pure devotional service. That not everybody, of course, is able to have pure devotional service. The faith is not yet strong. So therefore, they take shelter in other things as well. But if we are wanting to practice pure devotional service, we have to start somewhere. So let us put our full faith in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, and in serving the devotees of the Lord. Everyone except the Lord himself is dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Even the all-pervading super soul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagavan. So this is very interesting point, right? This is indicating how Brahman, the absolute, they talk about the absolute truth. The absolute truth is understood in 3 levels: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. But Brahman is dependent on the Lord. Just like in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, Krishna says, Aham Brahmasmi. No, sorry, no, that's not the verse. He says something, I forgot the verse, but it says that I am the foundation of the Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti foundation, I am that foundation, right? And then it also says there, and here Prabhupada is saying, Paramatma also depend upon Bhagavan. So both Brahman and Paramatma depend on Bhagavan. So ultimately, Bhagavan is the ultimate absolute truth. So Bhagavan realization is the highest realization of the absolute truth. So even the all-pervading super soul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So then from Pumsa, the Lord's, okay, we stop here, right? Maybe it's 9:35 already. We will continue the other verses in our next session, right? So basically the understanding here is Brahma is showing very clearly how the supreme Bhagavan feature of the Lord is ultimately the ultimate realization of the supreme. He is a person and everything depends on him, right? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Everything spiritual and material emanates from the Supreme Lord. So this is the sum and substance of Canto 2. To firmly instill into our heads and into our hearts and into our brains that the Supreme Lord is everything, right? Vasudevam sarvam iti. He is everything, right? Bahunam janmanam ante. After so many births, one who is in full knowledge, jnanavan prapadyante, Vasudevam sarvam iti. He will understand that Vasudeva is everything. But such a person is very rare. Sa Mahatma sa Mahatma sudurlabha. So pure devotees are very rare. To come to the level of pure devotion, to have that kind of faith, convincing faith that everything, we only have to depend on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. We don't have to depend on anything else because the Lord is fully in control of the lives of the destinies of the pure devotees of the Lord. So, but one has to be surrendered. One has to accept whatever that comes and depend on the Lord. So this is the point, right? Eventually we will all come to that situation, whether we like it or not, because at the time of death, nothing can help us. At the time of death, when death is around the corner, when we are lying alone, right? Even if the family is there, even if everybody is there, right? Ultimately, we have to fully depend on the lotus feet of the Lord because He alone comes with us life after life. And He alone is our well-wisher. So one who knows this and one who understands this and one who believes this, that person is peaceful, right? That's why Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasham, one who knows that the Lord is the proprietor of all sacrifices, Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasham Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is a supreme Lord of everything within creation. This is what we are trying to understand here, right? And Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam, he is the only well-wisher of all living beings, the ultimate well-wisher, right? And one who knows this, Jnatva Mam, Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam, Jnatva Mam Shantim Rachati. He alone attains peace, complete abhaya. No need to have anxiety, no need to worry, oh, this, that, no, nothing. So that person is peaceful. So therefore, Prabhupada is peaceful. We saw, even Prabhupada's disciples, you can see, doesn't matter if anything happens to them, they are peaceful because they are completely dependent upon the Lord. They are not worried about this medication or that this or this or whatever. Anything that comes to their lives, they completely depend upon the Lord. And we can see from their example. So otherwise we will not believe, isn't it? So that's why they are doing these examples. They're showing us by these examples so that we can also have the faith. So the more we associate with them, the more we can see how to surrender, how practically they can surrender and how practically the Lord reciprocates. So very nice, beautiful verse also, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. Ye yatamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. According to one's surrender, I reciprocate with them, Arjuna. Krishna says to Arjuna. So, yeah, so we stop here, right? So let us recite Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time and for your patience and for being with me in these sessions. So it's, if there's any questions, anything that you'd like to clarify, happy to answer. Let's look in the chat. Right. I don't see any questions, not hearing any questions. So no worries, right? So please, if you have time, you can read through this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if there are anything that comes to your mind, anything you'd like to ask or clarify, happy to answer anything. So you can always send me a message or WhatsApp me, no problem. Right? So thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindhubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Hare Bo.